in the next room, and it's our complimentary lunch via our sponsors, FMCC, and so we look forward to seeing everybody there. I know I'm hungry. So the next thing is that this presentation, if you don't already know this, it is on the website. It will be up by sometime in next week, like maybe Tuesday or so. And you know, you go to the FACC website and you pull down documents, and then that menu comes and hit best practice or hit presentations, and you know, whatever you're looking for will be there. Or call whoever the number there is that you can't find it, and make them tell you where it is. Okay. I wasn't supposed to say that. Okay. So now the next thing, let's see. I think that we did hit the two issues, I think, that are the most heated among us, and that is, what do our counter people do when all of these fuzzy questions come up? And the second one is, how about the attorneys and where do they rank for many of the issues that we've addressed? What we do find, and we've said this a couple of times, that we see the conflicts all over the place. We know that we're all going to have problems with it, but what Randy wanted me to talk about right away is that we have the best practices right now online that is going to need some real overhaul once the new 2.420 comes out, and the other ones that we, you know, and the minimization rule and all of that sort of thing comes out. So our best practices are going to get overhauled. Please be ready to provide information and help in that area when that project gets off the ground, which I'm hoping and I'm guessing will be quick. Okay, and that's it, and take it away, Mr. Schultz.
Oh, thank you. What we're going to talk to you all about today is the pilot. And I don't know whether you're all aware of it or not, but in 2006, the Supreme Court put a moratorium into effect on everything that went on the internet. We went to the Supreme Court and asked them to do a pilot and allow us to be that pilot to put the information on. They agreed and put it under the FCTC, which is the Florida Courts Technology Commission, a committee. And it was supposed to go for 6 months under a subscription form where only subscribers got the information in 6 months for the public. Well, that was started in 2006, and in September of 2011, they finally agreed to let it go. So it's been under scrutiny ever since. It was reviewed by the National Center for State Courts and audited on 2 separate occasions. And the last one, they said it should go live, and it was a basis for everybody to do it in the state of Florida. So that's where we are on that. Before we start, I do want to tell you that up front here I have CDs that are of this presentation, the one we're going to do tomorrow, so any of y'all that want to get one, come up and grab it on your way out. Now, I'd like to introduce Jeff Taylor. Jeff is our program manager for this system, and he will go through it step by step on the pilot. I'd also like to recognize Lori Tolstorff, Carol Pettijohn, Angel Colonisa, and Renee Smith. They're all part of the team, and I really appreciate what they have done in our office. They're the ones that have put this together. They're the smart ones. I just pay for it. Jeff, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Short. Everybody hear me? As he said, my name's Jeff Taylor. I've been working for Mr. Short now for about 5 years, and the day I walked into the door, he presented me with this problem. He got approved for, like he said, the pilot project to put documents back online. It's been something I've worked on ever since. It's been very in-depth, and I will try to touch on everything and kind of give you guys an explanation of not only how we do it from a technical standpoint, also from a security standpoint, and some of the things that were talked about earlier this morning. And then I will kind of walk you through some examples and kind of show you how the website works. So, okay, discussion topics here: electronic access to court records overview. We also call that our courthouse information processing system. Take note of the acronym there. That's my guy. Basically, the entire thing is going to be the overview. We are going to touch on things about confidentiality, Chapter Chapter 119, Rule 2420. And the way we handle these things, we handle them basically through the use of subscriber rules. And what are subscriber rules? They're basically our customers. We sat down and identified our customers as one of the first things that we did. So we'll talk about the customers. We'll talk about case and document security. We use basically the same type of security methods to cover both from a case type level and a document level. And then we're going to talk about redaction. And one of the things we like to call a viewable on request, or VOR. After that, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a live demonstration. It'll be about 30 minutes, 40 minutes of what the actual website, going through some examples and seeing what it all has to offer. And then at the end, we're going to tell you how we can help you guys. We've laid a lot of the groundwork, a lot of the foundation here. So one of the things Mr. Shore definitely wants to do is share this with you guys. We want to share everything from the documents to the source code to you name it. We want to get everybody else. We want to show everybody this is not that scary. And we want to get everybody else in this direction. As soon as the moratorium is lifted. Am I correct, sir? All right. You got to wait on that, I guess. All right. So what is electronic access? Well, it is exactly that. It's access to the court file electronically. Whether that be from a kiosk in your office, whether that be from Starbucks, somebody's house, the library, wherever that may be. So to get them to the electronic case file also would mean we want to get them to the electronic image as well. So that's what we're talking about here today. And when we began the project back in 2007, it was a two-phase project. First phase being subscribers. The Supreme Court basically said, prove that you can do this with login and passwords, identifying the customers, and basically saying that if you can do this, then we're going to move you on to step 2, or phase 2 of the project, which then was anonymous public access. And that's what I'm going to show you guys most here today during the demo, is what the anonymous public access has to offer. These are requirements from the Supreme Court, included monthly reports. We send those to OSCA, the FCTC, off to the Supreme Court every month for the better part of 4 years. And I do not miss those days at all, because that was a job that I got planted with in 2007. I never realized what kind of task that would have been. So I'm very glad that they approved it last year in 2011, because I celebrated in October 2011 was the first month I didn't have to. Customer surveys, we had to do customer surveys for each phase. We basically did an electronic survey. When they logged into the website in phase 1, we would launch the survey. They had to fill out one time, and we were done. Phase 2 is a little trickier. Again, they're anonymous. We don't know who they are, where they're sitting at, or anything like that, what machine they may be in. So some of them may have seen the survey 2 or 3 times, but it was to anybody that logged into the site at that point in time. So the number of surveys, I believe, in phase 1 was in the upper 2,000s. The surveys for phase 2 was in the 15,000 range, so we were definitely getting some use. And I think the sample set was only for 3 weeks, so during 3 weeks we had 15,000 people take the surveys. We did regular security audits during this time to make sure that we were in compliance with all the rules and all the statutes. And then we also did the regular reviews to account for any legislative change. All right, I want to go over some of these terms and definitions. Mr. Shore started on the top one. I use these interchangeably, electronic access to court records. I also use the word pilot, so I want you to understand if I throw out the word pilot, I mean the same thing. The matrix, we're going to talk about that. Basically, it's a spreadsheet that we have. It's the how do I say it? It's the inner workings, it's the nervous system, it's to the respiratory system, to the entire thing. It keeps the whole thing alive. It's basically a spreadsheet that identifies all the security mappings that's behind the scenes or under the hood in the technology. And lastly, we have a VOR. I'll use that interchangeably. It means viewable on request. And for all intents and purposes, if you take nothing else away from here today, we talked a little bit about it. Clerks are already using this in some fashion. But what it is just the second pass redaction, only done when the user or the customer requests it. So what are public records? This is basically the first step of my project when we sat down and started looking at it. So what are public records? Basically, they're all the court records that are presumed to be public unless there's some sort of statute or rule that tells us it is not. This would include anything that we've identified as public. When we go through the security here, anything you see as VOR will be considered public as well. But anything that prohibits public access was the tricky part. So how do we keep it protected? And the first step to keeping it protected was identifying the customers. Here are different user levels or call our subscriber roles. You'll see in here attorney of record, party access, subscribers, everything down to general government on down, even the public internet. They were all our customers. So this was basically a step one to say, okay, once we figure out who we're serving these documents and these images to, then we can figure out, okay, how do we protect them on a case-by-case level. So we kind of give you a little bit of a diagram here of a pyramid. So at the very top there, public internet is basically the most restricted access. It is, only the things that are, that don't fall under any rules or statutes that we can make eligible here. So once you go down from that, we have general government, we have the tax collectors, we break it out down all the way down to law enforcement. And once you get down there, they probably have the most broad access based on Florida statute rule that anybody can have. So let's talk a little about confidentiality. I mentioned that we do case type and document type security, and these are very, very similar. What we do basically is when we serve up a web page that has the case on it, the first thing we do is check for document type security against the user you're logged in as, whether that be public access or attorney or law enforcement or whoever. So we'll serve that up. So then that determines whether you can see the case number, the case party names, the entire docket, or all the images. So there's basically a little bit of a decision made there. And assuming that, okay, you're allowed to see all the way down to the case docket screen and to get to images, we will then go to the document security. So every time you click on a document, it'll run through another security routine that'll say, can I serve this document up to the person, to this individual, based on their user permissions or roles. And then once you're inside the document and you've been presented with it and you're looking at the document, of course we have redactions. There's confidential information all over these documents. There's social security numbers, bank accounts, victim identification, all this type of stuff that we have to keep protected and keep confidential. Even though the public is allowed to see this document, they still aren't allowed to see this information in the document. Here are the 5 types of security that we have. Public and VOR, the top 2 are public document types. If those are served up, that is served to, basically it's available. It's unavailable on our website. Below that, confidential. Again, that'll fall into most of the rules that you'll see in 2420, Chapter 119, any of those type of rules. Then, of course, there's court-sealed documents, court-sealed cases. Those are all taken into account as well. And then anything that's expunged, which is basically, there's no record of it, so why am I even talking about it? VOR is a term that we created here in Manatee County. Feel free to use it. Feel free to discuss about it. You'll see it all over our documentation and everything, and everything that we'll provide you after this presentation. All right, so this kind of delves into the security matrix that I touched on, and what you have here is basically a handful of levels, A through H. Basically, the first 4 are exclusionary, which you can't see, and then you'll look at E through H is basically inclusionary. If I was writing this, I'd write it a little bit different. This is what I'm presenting today. So, basically, A is basically you'll get everything but expunged and sealed. This could be, for instance, law enforcement. They may get level A access to certain case types, where they would see everything under that case type, any document under the case that isn't sealed or expunged. And you've got every permutation all the way down where you have to, request view. As letter D here shows you, you can't see it expunged or sealed. You won't be able to access confidential information, and you'll have to request view on request. Probably the most common level access is level D. All the way down through level H, which is no records. You can see that you can see E is the case number, name, and docket. F is the case number, name, so on. We felt that all these levels were let's put it this way. We looked through all the statutes and everything that the users had permissions, the customers had permissions to see. All these levels came up, and we needed every permutation of each. So the legislation changes. This gets reviewed every time to make sure we don't need a new level to take into account docket text or driver's license or charges or some of these stuff. It's endless. We could definitely get more involved here if the legislation tells us to. All right, how we do redaction in Manatee County? We actually do. I call it a free pass redaction. There's no document in Manatee County that goes through 3 passes of redaction. It's more like 3 methods of redaction. We have an upfront workflow. These are basically documents that are identified that would otherwise be VOR. VOR is a document that has a high probability of having confidential information on it. Therefore, we say, okay, we're going to make it a VOR. You, the customer, are going to have to request it, and we're going to take second look at it, go ahead and redact it. So that takes care of upfront workflow. AI Redact, that's the actual software that we use here in Manatee County, and basically it's an automated assisted redaction, and what that means is that the computer doesn't make the redactions for us. The actual human, the body, the clerk, makes the redaction. All the program does is it assists in finding the clue words, finding the keywords, finding the actual redacted information, and saying, hey, here it is on page 18. You need to look at it because it references Social Security. Last thing, viewable on request. That's basically our third method here, and that applies to anything that we identify as VOR. I'll show you the matrix here in a few moments, and you can see that we have two different types of VORs. We identify those at the case level and at the document level. At the case level, basically any document on that case will be a VOR, if it's not confidential or sealed or anything higher than that. At the document level, it's just one single document. It's just identified by docket code, how we do it in Manatee County, and if it's a VOR docket code, it will ask you to request it. Let's talk a little more about VOR. When a user clicks on a document that is a VOR, instead of them being actually able to view it, the request is generated. They have the last opportunity to enter an email address. If they do, great, we're going to send them a notification. If they don't, great, you just check back in 24 hours, or what we call one, we really say one business day anymore. Because we have a lot of requests on the weekends and stuff like that. So people were expecting the request from Saturday being done on Sunday, and that wasn't happening. We were getting phone calls. So one business day, we'll return the VOR, just send you guys an email and say, your document's available, go back to the case, and go ahead and check it out. So example of these VORs are, we have criminal, sexual, or child abuse type of things, sexual violence, documents with dispositions, transcripts, letters, any sort of attachments we identify as VOR because they can put pretty much anything in an attachment. We want to make sure that we're catching all the confidential information. Once it's requested and reviewed, like I said, email is sent. At that time, they can go ahead and view it. Once it's reviewed, the document then becomes public. So if I request the document today and tomorrow, it gets reviewed and it's done, it's out there on the web, and then let's just say, Mr. Short decides he wants to go look at the document 6 months from now, I've already requested it's going to be available to him. He just has to click on it and become public. All right, let's jump into the demo here. Before I do, I want to show you guys a little bit more about our security first. Those that have seen this might know it hurts your eyes a little bit, but I'm just going to spend 4 or 5 minutes here and just kind of walk through this. Everybody see that? I'll kind of explain what I'm touching on here and stuff like that. But what you got here is basically the stuff that we talked about in the slides here. We've got the user's levels here. And those actually go across the top of this document. Levels 1 through 12 across the top. So those are our customers. When you look down the document, here, you'll see the actual case types. Here's actually the case code that we use internally in the system. But then the case types here. So in this case, we have county criminal appeals right here. The next thing you need to know is what's in the little boxes. Again, we touched on that already. Here is the letters that you find in each individual box. Now the matrix is set up so to read, basically, who are you first? What are you trying to look at second? And now we're going to tell you what you can see or not, or how much you can see or how much you can't see. So for example, let's just take a look at the county criminal appeals here. And let's just take a look at column 8 here, which is our public info. So this is anonymous. This is somebody who just comes on, clicks a button, and says, okay, I can start searching. All right, so we come down to criminal appeals here, and you'll see a D-level access. And that basically relates to that this person will have to, if it's a public case, if they come across a public case, they will have to request any VORs, they will see any public documents, anything that's sealed, sponged, and confidential, they will not have access to. Let's give you another example here. Let's take a look at suits column 10 here. So basically the Attorney General's office in the Department of Children and Family. And let's just say that they were coming down here to look at a circuit criminal appeals case, actually county civil appeals, I'm sorry. And what we have there is a level C access. And for them, since they have identified who they are, they are subscribers, so they have the login and password that goes along with it. We've identified that yes, you are actually who you are, they've gone through our approval process and everything else. They have to be given a little more see, basically saying that they still can't see expunged, sealed, or confidential documents. But what they can see is anything public, and they do not have to request anything that's VOR as far as the documents. So if they run across a document that's VOR, it would be available to them immediately because they have proven who they were. So that's how you read this document. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of extras in here and stuff like that I don't want to go into, but I'm going to scroll down here just a little bit. We do have every case type we have here in Manatee County, and we have every access level you'll see there. You see a lot of H's and stuff like that. Sometimes the H's are stuff that we don't serve up online, such as some juvenile documents and stuff like that. So you'll see a lot of H's, which will basically say no records. We don't give those at this time to most of those folks. So. All right, enough of that. One thing I want to stress here is that we're going to make this matrix available, and Mr. Shores kindly offered me up to go ahead and Angel, I believe, our legal counsel, to explain this or talk you through it, or try to help you if you come to the point where you want to build your own matrix and basically, okay, you've identified your customer, you've got your document, your case types. Let's sit down and we can kind of go through the process. All right, let's get into the demo here. Manatee Clerk.org. Our main site is ManateeClerk.com. What we did specifically for the Supreme Court here is we decided to do a second website completely set aside so they didn't have to intermingle with all the other things that we offer online and all the other information. We wanted a one-stop shop to the Supreme Court, the FCTC, Oscar codes, that basically was the pilot site. It was electronic court records. Again, courthouse information processing system. So you've got a couple things to choose from here. The top, there's a couple different buttons. The top one is the public access to court records. That is basically phase 2, which you're looking at here. If I click on that one, I will jump right to a search screen without having to log in, without having to give a password, or anything like that. The except for subscription access, any of the attorneys that log in, most of them go in through this way. They'll accept for subscription access, they'll push their login password in, and they're in. They're basically, you'll see this similar search screen. What they have that maybe the public doesn't have, or government users don't have, is they actually have access to their cases. We will give them, when I say open access, I'm going to say open access, but I'm going to define open access, but they're still looking at redacted images. Open access meaning if they've identified themselves and we put them on the case in our CMS, it shows up here and will be searchable for them to bring up, and they won't have to request VORs. Anything that's confidential they'll be able to get is their case. The party that basically gives them permission, obviously, to represent them. So here we serve them up open access. And I use that recently. The last section there is aiSmartBench party access. Very similar to attorney access. Again, it's on a case-by-case basis. They basically will come into the office and they'll prove that I am who I am. This is my case. We will set them up on a one-for-one basis where then they can come back anytime back to the website from wherever they're at, and they can get back to their case again without having to request VORs and things like that. And the reason for this is we wanted to make this was something that was permitted by the rules, by the statutes, and this was something that we'd have to serve up if they came into the counter anyway. So we wanted to make this is public access for us. When they come into our office today, we don't print something out here over the counter. We point to a kiosk. They sit down right here at the same exact location over there, and they basically do their searches and stuff like that. If they want to print something from there, they can print from there. They'll shoot behind the counter, take their fees like normal. With that said, this is the live site. I don't do anything on test. My colleagues know that. I just prefer to do it live. I'm not pulling strings. There's no smoke and mirrors, nothing like that. So. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump into. Actually, let me go straight into public anonymous access here. I'm going to click on the top one. It takes me to the screen here, basically telling you a little bit of information at the top about when we went electronic in these different case departments here. And then at the bottom, then scroll down here a little bit, you'll see the actual search piece of the puzzle here. We give basically 5 different criteria to search on. We can search by person's name or business name. We can search by case number, citation number, and case type. Right? The first search I'm going to do here is by case number. I'm going to go in and say, hey, I know what case number I'm looking for. Let me go ahead and pull this one up here. just going to run through some of the security routines that I talked about already. And what it's going to do is serve up the information that I'm permitted to see based on security metrics. So in this case, I was a column 8, you're looking at the security matrix, public access. I can then see, okay, I notice I have access to the case number here. I got the party, I got the party type, case type, file date, disposition. Basically, it looks like this case is a public case. This is something I can get to. The reason I know it, it's actually underlined there, meaning that I can go ahead and click on the case. At this point in time, it's going to run through another routine of security routine behind the scenes, and it's going to serve up the information on the screen that I can see. Mainly the documents. It's going to look through all the documents on the docket, and it's basically going to say, okay, these are the type of documents you can and can't see. So now that we've delved this deep down to the docket level, we've got case number, we got all the information at the top that we saw earlier, all the case information. Now we've got the extended party information with the additional parties, the attorneys, anything like that that's listed on the case. Then you have the main section here, which I call main, because what I'm going to spend most of the time talking about, is the docket section. Giving you the docket description, the file date, and the image, if available. You notice a key across the top there. Viewable on request, and confidential. You'll see the color codes going down the side. If you click on it, a viewable image. Let's take this is the cover sheet here. Let's go ahead and just click on this one real fast. I know it's going to, sometimes I don't look at all the documents before I click on them. And I've come across one, so I've clicked on it 100 pages long. And yes, there's, the internet doesn't serve up quite as quick as it does a 2-page document. So I made that mistake before, so now I actually pay attention to what I'm clicking on. All right, so here we go. We got a civil cover sheet here. First thing you notice, it's a 1 or 2 pages, so this is a 2-page document. And this is exactly what I would get if I came to the counter and asked for it in person. This document has been cleansed. This is going done through our redaction routines. No image is made available until it does go through at least a 1-pass redaction, whether that be upfront redaction or through the AI redact. And the first pass is always looking for the what used to be termed, and maybe still be termed, the Florida 5, the Chapter 119, the Social Security number, the bank accounts, credit cards, that type of stuff. All right, so we have a document here. Let me jump back to the docket screen. So if you go ahead and click on this and get back to the document. Click on it. I don't think I did. All right, there we go. All right, and you're seeing real speed, so however fast that the whole internet is, as fast as we're going to get it. All right, so let's take a look at another one here. We notice that just below that one, we have a certified copy of certificate of death. Definitely one that falls into many chapters or many rules under the 2420. And we've identified it as a confidential document here. Me being a public internet access, if I click on the document, it's going to come up and say this record is confidential. It does not serve up the image. It's going to tell you basically a little brief bit about why it's confidential. It's also going to tell you that, okay, if you're an attorney on this case, you can get access. If this is your case, you can get access by subscribing. It'll also give you little things about information about being a party. And you'll notice here that there's a bunch of links on this, and I'm going to talk about these links real fast. These are basically links to all the different subscriber forms that we have for each customer level. Basically, there was one for each level, and they would basically, if you were an attorney and you wanted to sign up for exactly that, I got this case, I know it's mine, I should be able to see this certificate of death. They can sign up just by clicking on this form, print it out, or emailing it to us, emailing and faxing it. But basically proving who they are, we'll verify with the Florida bar that they are who they are, and they have access. I make that process seem so quick, but there's a little more to it. All right, let's go back to the dockets here. All right. You can see this case has 25 docket entries. Just below that, you'll see a couple of them yellow. Those are our VORs, identified as VOR. So we got a civil attachment here, basically to verify the complaint. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and click on that now. Again, this is a public document. There's nothing that says that Mr. Shore, the clerk's office, we can't show you this document. But what we are going to say first is, hang on a second. We've identified this document as a VOR. The there's a very high probability that there's confidential information in this document. We want to take it out. So this is your opportunity. This is the opportunity here. So we don't say that you can't get it, but we say that you're going to get it one business day. Here's the offer. Here's the option to enter your email address. And if you do or don't, hit submit. That request goes back to us at the clerk's office. We have one staff member that probably does VOR about 2 hours a day throughout the day. I think she checks pretty much every hour on the hour, sees what's out there, and goes ahead and processes the VORs. So chances are, if you do request one of these during the day, we'll have it back for you. Now, of course, she has backups and everybody else, and there's other redactions that we're doing on everyday stuff. But yeah, she's basically the one person that's doing the redactions, and it's going very well. Going very well right now. I got a couple statistics here. I didn't actually get a slide of these, but I just wanted to let you know that when we're talking about VORs, you might be thinking, okay, so what's the number of VORs you're doing? Well, we're actually doing about 500 VORs per day. So the documents that get filed that fall into the VOR category are about 500. The average number of requests we're getting is somewhere around 80 to 100 per day. Weekday. On the weekend, we're getting a little bit less. But you know, that's definitely one of the benefits to going with an online system is that we are serving up images on the weekend. We serve anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 images on the weekend. Things that the clerks have been handicapped by because of the requirement. You can't do this. You can't do this during the weekend. Office hours are closed. But we're slowly spoiling the visitors of the Manatee County website. Hopefully, paving the way for everybody else to be able to do the same. Let me go ahead and say no thanks to this. I don't really want to request this document. So if I do that, it's going to take me back to the doc screen. And I'm going to move on to another example here. So I'm actually going to go do a new search. Again, I'm going to do a case number search. Got one here, do a little bit older document, 07, CF, 34. And if I actually touch on anybody's relatives, I apologize. I did not pick your relative on purpose, but it was completely by random. I was looking for other examples, let's put it that way. So what I'm looking at here is a felony case. Again, it served up the same information screen that we saw earlier, basically saying that I can't view down to the case level. The security routines ran for the document level, and you'll notice one quick thing right off the bat. Every single document here is VOR. This was identified at the case type level based on who I am. And it said that, okay, every document out here is a VOR. And I could probably scroll up and tell you, actually let me scroll down and tell you. If you scroll down to the bottom here, you got the charges here. And you'll see that this falls into the 827, neglect of a child, bodily harm. So we're looking at child abuse here. So that's the reason that all of these are VOR. There's a very high probability of victim identification on these documents. We in Manatee County want to take a second look. We want to make sure that we've got all that information protected before we serve up these images. Now you will notice one thing here, other than all these being VOR, and this is an ongoing, obviously a case ongoing since 2007. But there is one document on here that's not VOR. You'll notice 4B printed here. Anybody know why this is? Yep, you're right. It's already been requested. This document has already been requested by somebody else. So if I click on it, even though it was once my VOR, I did not have to sit and wait a business day or a couple hours to get it. So I can simply bring it up here, and I don't believe this document has any redactions on it. But yes, that's exactly why that was a public document. Go ahead and do another search here. Still a little interesting here. Let's do it by case type. Something that we offer. Manatee County. Now, there's case types that we don't serve up online. You won't be able to search by do not case types and things like that. You won't find them on this list. We've omitted them since you're not going to have access to them. But let's go ahead and grab a guardianship case here, case type. And the dates are fine. We'll just do it for the last month, 26th of March to today. And I'm going to search. So it's going to bring back the first 25 results. In this case, there's only 15. We had 15 cases that have been filed in that month period of time. And I'm going to go ahead and click on one of these. You can see the one I clicked on before. So first thing you can see here is all these cases are made available to me. They give me this much information. I still haven't logged in. I'm not an attorney or law enforcement or government user. I'm simply just a general public sitting here. You guys can do it out in the audience. got some information here that we can serve up. Again, party information, some details about the attorneys. Got the docket list here. Every document here is confidential. Can't see any of these. Why? Basically, statute, rule tells us why. In the matrix, if you look up public internet access, you go to our issue case, you're going to see, I think it's a letter, I'm going to say G, actually it's probably E, which will be, I can see the case number, I can see the parties, I can see the party information, I can see the docket, but I'm not seeing any documents on this case. All right, to show you the security system at work here, this is sort of my techie side. Just give kudos to our web developer, who, by the way, Mr. Shore has offered up the source code of our website to any of you. So if any of you have a .NET new programmer or want to go and say, hey, this looks great, let me take what Manatee County's done and just kind of build on that and make it for our county, Mr. Shore has offered up that source code. It's something developed in Manatee County. It's easily programmable and plugged into a CMS. For any of the techies in the room, it's all based on stored procedure. So let me go ahead and log in here. Let's log in as a law enforcement. Everybody's a temporary law enforcement. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And what it's going to do is, I just hit the login button. So it's going to remember all my information. I was on this case when I left it, so it's going to take me right back to the case. But what it has done is it's run all the security routines again. Had I not been able to get to this case, it would have told me that, nope, can't get to this case. However, law enforcement can get through at least this far, so it presented the screen. What it also did is bring the security routines on the dockets and the images. And now that you'll see that I am logged in, I am verified as a law enforcement officer, those documents that were previously confidential are now served up. Again, you'll notice that the ones that are VOR identified are still apply here. So they still have to request any of those VOR type of documents. However, the confidentiality, the permission of not being able to see this document at all has been lifted because I approved that I'm law enforcement. And based on Florida rule, I can see this. A couple more examples here. And then, if you notice on top of the website, it actually tells me to go and log in as Enforcement 1 is basically one of our test users that I'm glad I enabled for the presentation, because I've done a presentation before where I kept those test accounts disabled, and I've gotten this far and I couldn't figure out why they didn't work. I thought somebody changed the password on me, so I went back and questioned a bunch of people and realized it was my fault. All right, let me go back into public access here, and let me go bring up another case here, my case number. MH. Bring this one up here. This is basically a mental health case. Security has been run on this, and what you see, not much. I'm a public internet access user, and honestly, I came to this case and I knew it existed, mental health. I've got no information about the case or the parties at all. The case number is not underlined. If I do try to click on it, I get nothing. I cannot get any information from this. Basically, the security matrix at work here telling me that the rules applied to public internet access here are of confidentiality. So. Go back to my search again. I've got another example here. Let's do an example by person's name here. I'm just going to do it. Let's just do a last name. Last name here. I do not recommend doing this if you have a very common last name. Smith, Johnson, Jones. My last name's Taylor. I would not dare do that. It will take a long time to come back. It will serve you up. It'll sort of get the first 25 results, right? Yeah, of 100,000 people or something like that. So I don't recommend that. However, this person, this last name here, Doan, comes up 82 times. There's a bunch of cases on here, a bunch of different individuals. You'll notice that some information is on here. Most of this information on here is actually looks like you can serve up most of this. If I did come across a case type that you couldn't serve up a lot, it would basically wouldn't be there. Much like the mental health you saw, you basically come across, you would see any detailed information. And then, of course, we'll be able to click on the case. Let me back up down here and click on this document. So this case here, it's a 2008 misdemeanor case. And it's just want to prove that searching by this method is possible. Serve up the same type of information, anything like that. So, regardless of the way you search, the screens look very familiar, very similar. Once you get the search screen up, you go to the case level. Everything here is pretty standard. The sections, I don't really tell you all the sections here, or go into detail about the sections we have on here, but they're always in the same order. It's always by case details, followed by party, followed by image and docket, charges, disposition, and then there's some, based on the case type, we can get down there to a little more specifics. But it goes all the way down. I believe we can populate financial information on certain case types as well. So all that is documented, thorough documentation. Had to happen from the Supreme Court. We send it monthly anytime we had updates to the documentation, anytime we made a change to the site, it affected one of the documents, all in those reports and everything I talked about earlier. So if you grab me after hours or something like that, I can tell you horror stories if you want to be entertained or not. They don't work. All right. Now we'll throw in a couple more statistics here, getting towards the end of the demonstration. The number of subscribers we have, I just checked yesterday, and we are up to 7,786 subscribers. Now these are folks that have identified as one of the customer levels other than public anonymous access. With that said, in Manatee County, we're actually documents filed. We're looking at about 4,500 to 5,500. I'm sorry. I don't have the documents filed. I can tell you how many documents are requested a day on the website. And that is between 4,500 and 5,500 per day. We're serving up 4,500 documents per day via this website. Imagine if they all came into the account. Lori, I know you're very thankful for the system. So, and we're serving up, like I said, 2,000 documents on the weekend too as well. So you take 5,000, average 5,000 a day plus 2,000 on the weekend. We're serving up quite a few documents here. Now, with that said, interestingly enough, that out of those subscribers, as I mentioned before, we have 7,700 of them roughly. 4,000 of those, 4,500, almost 4,500 of those are attorneys. The next closest one, I believe, is just the general subscribers who said, I want to be a general subscriber anyway, even though I'm just a member of the public. We offer that up. People can do that. That way their information is stored. If we send out little things. If the website goes down, they'll get an email notification. If they request a VOR, they don't have to put their email address in there. It's automatically populated for them. Little things like that. So there's benefits for the general public who subscribe as well. But they're our next most populous user, and they're looking at about 2,500 to 3,000 of those. Now the VORs I touched on, we're doing about filing 500 VORs a day. About 100 of those are getting requested. We're getting 100 requests a day. So you can notice that we're only serving up those VORs about 15 to 20% of the actual VORs that are filed are actually being requested. Now that saved us a lot of time in Manatee County, just because if we hadn't had a VOR process and we just made everything public, they would all have to go through an upfront redaction of some sort to get cleansed, and we would be spending a lot more than one person doing it every 2 hours or 2 hours a day to go ahead and cleanse the other 400, 500 documents that came in a day. So these having the VOR process, we highly recommend it. I think some other counties obviously they mentioned they do that with their paper files now, and it is a very time-saving process, and it does solve the process of the back file. Anything you've got prior to whatever date, you can just say those are all VOR, as long as they're not confidential sealed. Jumping back and forth here, back on the subscribers, I mentioned that we have 4,500 attorneys registered roughly. Of the image requests per day, the attorneys, even though they're our most popular subscriber, the attorneys are only requesting about 1,200 to 1,400 documents a day. Of the 5,000, they're only requesting 1,200 to 1,400 documents. 3,200 to 3,500 of those requests that we're getting all come from a public anonymous access. So you can imagine what the numbers looked like in phase 1 when we started out with just subscribers, and then we added on phase 2, and how much more traffic our website got. Just because people just didn't, either A, even if you had to log in, you didn't have to log in anymore, or if you B, you were general in public and said, I'm not going to do this until they get to phase 2, and then, you know, the word definitely spread, obviously. We didn't do too much promotion for phase 2. We definitely did for phase 1 just to get people using, get some information in the system so we can report to the Supreme Court. Phase 2, we actually did a silent go live. We actually turned it on in February of 2010. And officially announced it on the website in March of 2010. But in February, it basically, we kind of silently turned it on without telling anybody. And our traffic numbers were twice full already, without even telling anybody. People just wandered in there and said, oh, I can click on this now. Look, there's a new button, public access. And we started using it. So basically the point there is the public definitely wants this, customers definitely want this, clerks, we should all want this. But it definitely is a time saver, money saver for us in Manatee County. And
Jeff, let me point out one thing too that I think is very interesting. Almost 50%, actually a little bit over 50% of all of our filings now in the county are being done electronically, which I think is an extremely high percentage. And I think the reason that we're getting such a high percentage is we're doing what we call simple e-file. The attorneys just come on and just like they send in paper now, and we docket them and do that type of thing, we do the same thing with the electronic files. They just send in the papers to us and we do it. We don't make them fill out a form telling us what the docket code and all this stuff is. And it's been so much easier for us. And the other thing, and the other reason it's been so much easier, we're using a system called, not Redact, the other one. Index, where it actually OCS's the incoming information, and it populates almost 70% of everything we do. And using this in recording for a long time, and it saves an incredible amount of time on verification and input, and it's doing the same thing in the court system. So, you know, in the future, the better the ability to read these documents and populate our fields, the less we're going to need information. It's going to do it all for us. In fact, to me, one day we'll even be able to do away with docket codes. Jeff, you did a super job.
all right, last thing here I want to leave you guys with, before we turn it over to questions, because I know we covered a lot of subject matter here this morning. I want to give you guys ample time for questions. Definitely want to get you guys out first with food too. So, how can we help you? I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but we want to provide, we want to help you provide access to the customer. As soon as this moratorium is lifted, there's nothing stopping. Really, we got basically our customer types are defined here. We are all in the same business. Maybe you have one or two more or less than we do, but mainly I think we cover most of our customers in this list. They do all fall into one role or another. Once in a while we do break out, certain government agencies and stuff like that based on what they can see and stuff like that. So there were legislative changes, there were some changes that happened, but for the most part we have a good set of customer lists here. We provide it to you guys and we hope you use it. Case type security measures, like I said before, we'll offer it up. We have CDs up here, Mr. Short mentioned. On there is a matrix. You can take a look at it, do with it what you will. Remove everything, put your own case types in there, and you can start to work. I will tell you one thing about the matrix, one last thing about the matrix. When we were developing the system before we went live, the most important thing is, and I can't stress this enough, is that is your document case type discovery. If you don't know your documents, if you don't know your case types, this is going to look like an impossible task. And basically, we had two people really spearheaded it. One of them sitting in this room, Lori Polsar. I hate to point her out, she's going to be embarrassed. She was one of the integral pieces of getting this developed. And basically going through all the case types, all the document types, all the document codes, basically identifying all these pieces of the puzzle and helping develop our security matrix. The other thing is the document type security matrix. I actually didn't show you this. Let me go ahead and show you this real fast. And what it is basically just a list of our docket codes. It's actually on the security matrix here as well. And I'll just look at the ones that we call via alarm. And basically all this is a list. You'll see a document code list, and we've got our document descriptions in the middle. And then we actually, on the right over here, are actually saying, are we reviewing this document for numbers, or are we reviewing it for victim identification, or both? So we do have the information, we do have all this stuff documented here as well, and you can see that we get quite a few document codes, and these are just BORs in Manatee County. So as much as we like the idea of having a statewide document code, we all kind of know that that's kind of a pipe dream a little bit. We more are thinking along the lines that we can use something like an AI index or some sort of software that can read the document. And as long as you define this title equals this document code, and this document code equals this security, you've got it all there. Just need a clerk to verify to make sure it's all right. So, but we have that all listed here. And everything down to confidential documents, what our sealed documents are, our public documents. Lori and our former legal counsel went through and did all this legwork here. And lastly, like I mentioned before, was the pilot source code. We're glad to give that up to any of your tech teams that want to go ahead and start how do I say it, dissecting the program and see how it works with you guys. At this point, I'll just turn it over to questions. Maybe the floor is open. Thank you.
Tomorrow, what we've shown you today is how we did it on to our internet and the electronic filing part of it. And on the CD is a little demonstration of how we're doing electronic filing in Manatee County. Tomorrow, we're going to show you the rest of it and how it gets to the judge's bench. To me, there's not going to be a budget benefit to any of us until the attorneys are using it, we're using it, and the judges are using it. If there's a failure in any one of these systems, and when I say the attorneys, most of the time, state attorneys and public defenders, it's not going to be a benefit to us on the budget side. Because while we're doing it now, we're still having, under the rules, to give those judges who want paper, we're having to print it out for them. It's true that we're imaging everything, but we have to print a copy out for some of the judges because they absolutely won't look at a computer screen. That's got to change. And the judges have got to be mandated to accept the electronic image, and the attorneys and filers are going to have to be told they have to mandatorily electronically file. That's the only way we're going to get a real benefit out of this. Now, we do have a storage benefit, and we do have the benefit of being able to bring this information up on any computer, so you don't have to go get a paper file. But it still has not reached this point where it's really going to be beneficial to us, in my opinion. Ladies?
We get pushback from one or the, there's a group of judges who really just can't wait till we absolutely automate everything, and then there's another group that every time I mention it to them, they can do this.
Yeah, come tomorrow. We've got 14 judges in Manatee that are 11. 14 judges in Manatee that are using it now, and they really like it. And if you really want to see a system, Santa Rosa County now has it set from the time somebody sends in an electronic document till it gets on the bench. They've really got a neat system to put in effect over there, and I know Mary would love to have you come visit. Is that right, Mary? And she's done an incredible job with it over there. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Thank you all. Any questions?
We really wanted to open it up to questions about anything that was discussed this morning. The minimization rule, confidentiality rule, anything.
You're too
Yes.
slow.
Our other clerks redacting, like on foreclosures, minimization numbers, and loan numbers. How are you guys handling that? Since it doesn't fall in, just like social security numbers and stuff.
You're saying, are we redacting things that are sensitive in the minimization rule? Is that what you're asking?
Like in our foreclosures, has the loan numbers on them? Are they redacting those? And then a lot of times
We're redacting everything that's on that list of 20. The magic 20, the loan number isn't one of them. But if Social Security numbers are in that document, and if a lot of mortgages come with the Social Security number, the They're not supposed to, but they do. So, yes, we're doing that. We're running it through the redaction software, but not the other numbers.
Wow, we thought we'd be pelted with questions.
I actually got a question during the break that I'm going to pose to you, Katie, because I don't know the answer to it. Regarding the minimization rule, in situations where the clerk is assisting, for example, a domestic violence victim or someone fill out injunction paperwork and there are minor children involved, do they need to use the initials of the children in that paperwork? Or do they need to put the names in so the judge can see the kids that they're talking about? How would you handle that?
Wow. So if we're just provided assistance.
Right.
And
Actually, those are protected by statute, so they're not even on it. You don't put those on either.
No, I'm not saying that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're back to that?
Full switch.
Oh, my. Okay. You got to warn me.
well, I mean, in a perfect world, if I were helping someone, I might say, you might want to consider using initials because there's a rule, that exists and you decide. But then again, I don't think we're going to be trading everyone that might be assisting everyone or minimization rule because it's not our duty. So I would say probably that advice won't get to the person because our staff on the counters would know.
We have a pro se division, I guess everybody does, that, handles these things when they come up. And I think I'm still wanting to know, as we do the assist that the Supreme Court has asked us to do to the pro se domestic violence victim, etc., and children are going to be involved, are you saying that we still need to advise them, or we don't need to advise them that the children's names should be in the initial format?
I'm not saying that we need to advise them, because there is not a duty on the clerks to advise anyone of what's in the minimization rule. We can, and then let them decide. We definitely shouldn't be instructing them what to do. If someone's aware of it, I would say the most that should be done is to advise them. They may want to consider using initials. But absolutely we don't have any duty to instruct anyone to minimize anything, because that's the filer's responsibility, and the clerks don't have a duty under the minimization rule.
You did bring up an interesting thing. That is an extreme benefit of electronic filing is domestic violence. Because once it's issued, it can be issued to the judge electronically and get out to them almost instantly. He can sign it on the bench and send it right back to us. And then we send it out electronically. It goes right to the officers' computers in their car. And they can print it out immediately. We're talking maybe an hour from when the victim comes in the office. So that, to me, that's going to save lives in the future.
But if you use the initials for the children, and they take it to the school or other places, how does the school know what the initials are for? Which child? I mean, there's certain things that are going to happen to these children. They get child support, they get, you can't go in 500 feet of them, and you're just using initials instead of the child's name.
Well, I guess if all that has been filed in the case is initials, because the filer's chosen to read the minimization rule strictly and only use initials, if something more is needed, they're going to have to supplement the court file or ask for a court order to provide more information. I mean, I don't know the answer to that, but that's something that I don't know that the drafters of the minimization rule considered.
Well, because law enforcement, when they're trying to enforce that, they can't go on initials.
That's correct.
Yeah, we don't. It's protected by statute, so we don't recommend they use initials.
I wouldn't.
But it's all based on, we're going to see what is filed, and it's based on how the filers interpret this minimization
That simply goes through our redaction software right off the bat.
Okay, so that's.
The VOR is over and above that.
Okay, so it's like a different level, or?
Yes. It's a second level, I guess is what we call it.
Yeah, it's really in addition to VORs do get, even though they're still a VOR status, they'll get that upfront redaction or they'll process it AI redact once, just for numbers. I mean, looking for just those Social Security numbers, bank accounts.
The computer does it so fast, it doesn't.
Right, so the first workflow of checking that confidential, if there's any reason wrong, it does what it thinks is confidential, which may or may not be. And then, when it is requested, that's when you do your visual check and make sure that the software.
Well, actually, it's a little misleading. Some of the initial redaction we do look at, but that's when the redaction program brings up something that it's not familiar with. For instance, if it's a written Social Security number, it may not be able to read that and read it and understand it, but it will highlight it, so a person has to look at it. But today it's very uncommon. So when we do it, when they request it, it's when we look at it and scrutinize it.
Yeah, the difference, one of the things I didn't touch on was in the VOR scenario, our clerks, we look at every page. They're mandatory to look at every single page, whether the system finds a clue word or a keyword or redaction or not.
Not page 3. It's not a piece of paper.
Right, so I say page. Yes, it is a screen, but it's every single page of the document, basically, in a digital format, we will look at as a VOR. As opposed to anything that goes through the upfront or the AI redact. If the system finds it, that's the page that the user would have to look at, or the user would look at. Not everything else on the document.
Do you feel that just that first workflow would be enough to show that on the internet?
For the ones that we think has a high percentage.
When we workflow where you check every
Yes.
document, and then you think that would be enough responsibility for bid and.
Yes, unless it's one of those that we think is a higher percentage document, and then those we don't.
So those are, you choose the document types that you feel that it's more likely.
And the other, the way this statute reads, we have to do our best efforts. And the best efforts on our redaction system, the audits we've had on it read about 99.7% accurate. And I don't think you can get best efforts much better than that.
I think if you decided that you didn't want to go with the VOR approach, you wanted to do everything up front and say, okay, as soon as it goes through my redaction, it's on the web, no VORs. The best thing I would recommend there is that you would have identified that in your security codes. Each document comes in when it gets a security code, that it's going into one of two places. One, for numbers only. These are the documents that you're only going to find social security numbers, bank accounts, those type of things. And the other ones where you're going to find victim identification. Victim identification is the hardest one. These software just, they can't help you. I mean, they would find names after names. So,
You bring up an interesting point, though. A lot of times, work knows when there's going to be a case that's going to be called for that falls into the VOR category. And you know the newspaper is going to call. Now that one you go ahead and do write up and put out there. So, you know, we do catch those, but the rest of it, there's some few of them, there just isn't that many asked for, and we just don't see the necessity to do them all. We just think it's a waste of time. And the same thing with paper. You know, we started day one, and if somebody asked for an old file, we just went back, scanned it, and redacted it, and put it out there. And it was not that many. It was so much easier than going back and trying to put it all back out.
right.
Either of you have a guess as to when the moratorium will be lifted?
As soon as the Supreme Court makes up.
We'll be holding our breath.
Yeah. It's being recommended by FCTC, so this is the next one.
There's a question back there. Yes.
Child.
I have one quick question. What are your business rules? Let's say you have a low priority or low probability document, and attached to it is a death certificate when that gets filed, and you're going to docket it by the first page of the attachment. How do you deal with that? Do you do it as a separate document? Do you keep them together? Or do you change your your priority to that?
I don't know the answer, Lori.
We actually handle attachments as a CDAT attached, so it's a separate document, and it's handled as a DOR.
It's handled as a separate document as a BOR.
So even on a complaint, anything that's attached to that complaint, those are docketed as two separate things. The complaint is public, the CD attached is a DOR.
And what do you do with CC, I'm sorry, on CCIS, you got a lot of this up front, but a lot of the stuff I can pull it up directly on CCIS. Have you done anything to validate the securities coming through CCIS?
CCIS, you can't pull up images unless we have them. And it goes to our site to pull up the image, and all of this pertains. So as long as the dockets don't contain any information, then we're in good shape. I don't see it affecting CCIS.
Well, all your government agencies, just with your security scheme, I can go in through CCIS and I pulled up every one of these images or these cases and the images. So I just
You can't put, CCIS does not have images. The only way you get an image in CCIS is it goes to the county and you use their images.
Right. I just signed on to CCIS and I went to the same cases and I was pulling up the images.
He's saying that on the CCIS, it's for the direction.
Oh, you're logging in.
Right.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. If you're logging in, you get whatever that login security is.
Okay, that makes sense.
Sorry.
Okay, now I
So you are validating that through the CCIS.
Chuck, since you spoke up, I wanted to ask you to address an earlier question. I know that we, a while back, encountered the issue where we were finding that bank account numbers and loan numbers were the same. And I know that we went back and forth on that. I don't know how we ended up on that, but that relates to the question that the lady asked about the foreclosure.
We're looking at the key word account number, account, and those type of things. And loan numbers, I think we left alone.
So unless it
But
says...
other documents, what banks did, and our biggest concern was the credit union. You have a member number. It says member number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you come down here and it says account number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have the same sequence of numbers, and it's just, and the credit unions are real bad because they give you an account number and a member number, and they were the same. So your account number is your member number, and we chose on certain things we just decided that if there's a number and it looks like it would be an account number, we redacted it, and then if we had to go back and redact or question, then we do that way. We went on to the redaction side.
We're asking for permission. We're asking for forgiveness, not permission.
Well, you've got mine. Question back?
Yeah, kind of switching over. On the request for confidentiality under 119, especially law enforcement officers, they get real upset when you can't redact the parcel ID number because the statute only says address. Is anyone aware of any legislation to actually include parcel ID numbers? Because obviously the intent is to keep folks from finding their home. And now that you've got the foreclosures, you know, it's an issue on the court side as well as your official record reporting side. Anybody got any new update information on that?
We have a current issue, actually. And looking at the ORs, there is a prohibition on, I don't remember the exact number of the statute, but there is a prohibition against our taking anything out of a description, a property description. And the big problem you have for the LEOs is that they'll have a condo, and it'd be their condo, the wife lives there, and the kids live there, and it'd be number 4, condo number 4, and that'll be in the parcel description. But they want it redacted out of the parcel description as well as the home address description, because very easily anybody who wanted to get to that would be able to go to the parcel description and find it. So we're in the throes of trying to get an AGO to determine what we do about the conflict there. But I don't have an answer, I'm telling you. Okay.
But everybody here leaves the parcel ID number intact, right? Nobody redacts it?
Well, and the other part of that is we can redact all we want, but all we have to do is do the property appraisal.
That was the other part of the issue that came up for us. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but the property appraiser's office, in some cases, they are redacting all of the information. Yeah.
I think the property appraiser's office may have a different issue or may not have the same issue that we have with the official records, because the official records is where the chain of title information comes from. So if you start removing information that's going to enable the title examiner to determine, the chain of title in that property, then you're going to run into problems with that. So that's one factor that we consider when we address that issue. Anybody else? I know I'm supposed to be answering questions, not asking, but while I've got you all here, I have one. Regarding sealed documents and levels of access, when you have a document that goes up to the court and is sealed by this court, comes back down to the clerk, now I'm assuming we're dealing with electronic documents that are being redacted electronically, how do you deal with your levels of staff access to that? Do you make any changes? Is it the same as when it went up? How are you handling that?
When we seal it, everybody is sealed to everyone, except to me. So that if the works need to do something.
So you have 2 designated staff members that have access.
We do the same, and I'm not one of them. Here's exactly right.
Anybody else have a different approach? No? Same?
Well, Alex, I don't see any other questions, so I know we're a little early for lunch, but if there's no other questions, I guess we'll wrap it up. But thank you all very much